Talk about the layers panel over here on the right, the most important panel in all of Photoshop because it allows you to stay organized within your workspace. So you can see what layer you're on, you can add multiple layers to a document to make it more complex, and you can access several different special effects at the bottom of the layers panel. So let's go ahead and get started. I always like to have this panel on display. If you ever lose it, like you pull it out and then accidentally close it, you can find it again along with any of these panels over here under the window menu. So go down to window and then choose layers. It should open back up and you can put it right back where it belongs. I always like to start by making a copy of the background layer. So let's explore some of these functions at the bottom. We have the trash can tool, which will allow you to delete a layer if you have multiple layers. Right here, the layer is locked, so that will prevent you from deleting it unless you unlock it. And then whenever you choose to make a new layer or copy this layer, you can click on this plus sign, or you can drag your layer down to the add new layer button in order to make a copy. You can also right click and go down to duplicate layer. There's usually 2 or 3 ways to do anything in Photoshop. You also have this little drop down menu up here with the little 3 lines or however many lines that is, and then you can go up to duplicate layer. So you have lots of different options under that menu there at the top. So I'm just going to drag this layer down to the add layer button and it will make a copy. I could hide the background so that way I'm only working on this background copy, and that layer 0 is only there as a backup in case I mess up and move something doing irreparable damage. Then I can always make another copy of my original layer. Now if I wanted to select something on this layer, I might go to Object Selection Tool and just drag a box around what I want. Hopefully it'll find my fairy here, my fairy lamp, and see that as distinct from the background. So we're just going to go with whatever it finds. Photoshop's AI tools usually do a pretty good job of finding the subject, so we're just going to go with that. If I wanted to edit it, I could use the quick selection tool or one of the other selection tools, holding down Option to subtract from the selection, hitting the right or the left bracket keys to make it bigger or smaller, and you can see there's a plus sign in the middle, and once I hold down Option, then it switches to minus. So okay, there we have our fairy pretty well. So I'm just going to copy and paste, Command C, Command V, and now we see that's all that's on layer 1. So I might call this lamp. And then layer 2 has the background. So I can do something like merging layers. Say I didn't want those to be separate. I could hold Shift, click on the first and the last layer, and then go up to this menu, go down to merge layers. I could merge all the visible layers. I could flatten the image so there's no layers remaining other than one. And I can make changes to it that way. Now, if I want to make like a global edit to both of these, I could add an adjustment layer. So if I go to Window, Adjustments, you can see I can add like a brightness and contrast. And let's see if we can bring this up here. Let's close out of some of these so we can see both at the same time. There we go. Okay, so now we can see what we're doing. So we have our brightness, contrast, adjustment layer. If we want to see those properties again, we can double click. And you see it affects the entire image. If you want it to only affect the image right below in the layers panel, you can click on this clip to button. And now it's only affecting the lamp, as you can see. So that can be pretty helpful. You can also add any of these adjustment layers by going to the bottom of this layers panel. And right here where it looks like a circle with like half black, half white, that allows you to select even more adjustment layers. So you could add like, curves, you could change the hue saturation, which is a popular one. You could go to color lookup and try and find different like lighting effects based on, like the camera model. Here we go. So some of these might be kind of interesting as filters to add. And notice this, again, only affects everything underneath of it. So if I wanted it to only affect that one lamp, then I could clip it by double clicking and then clip it right to the layer beneath it. Okay, now if I want to group all of this together so that I can, like, say, move it together. So right now, like this, if I have auto select on, this one thing will move. If I want them to move together, that can be helpful. I might want to group them all in one folder. Shift, click on the bottom thing, and then hold Shift, click on the top thing that you want in your range. Click on the folder. Now this is group. I might call this lamp. And now I can turn this off and on, and it's going to have all of these layers contained very neatly within this one group so that I can, add things just to the group. So for example, now if I added like a photo filter, increase the density so you can see what it does, maybe make it blue so it's more obvious. Here we go. And then if we now double click, open it back up, click on this clip to, it's going to clip it to that group. So it's going to affect the whole group. So if I hide that group, you can see what it does. It doesn't affect this layer 0. Okay, and then we also have layer styles or layer effects. I'm going to go ahead and undo some of the things that I've just done. You can go up to the window history panel to do so if edit undo is not available. So window history, and just go back until before we make the group. Here we go. Okay, so I'm going to delete some of these things, drag them to the trash, the bottom of the layers panel, and then I have one more thing to explore down here at the bottom of the panel. So you can add layer styles. So it's called effects down here, layer effects, layer styles, special effects. You can add bevel and emboss, drop shadow, outer glow. So just to see what some of these do, let's explore outer glow because it might be more obvious than the drop shadow since the background is so dense. Okay, so we can lower the opacity if we don't want it to be so obvious. We can increase the spread, make it a little bit bigger, decrease the size. You can add different blending modes on it. So that's like all the way opaque. But if we wanted to kind of blend in with the layer below, so increase the size a little bit so now it's more faded, you can click on where it says normal, maybe change it to overlay or something like that. So now it's a little bit more subtle and it changes depending on what the background looks like. You can access any of these other layer styles over here, or once you click OK, just by clicking on the layer style again, and you can access those same ones over here. Drop shadow can be helpful. Bevel and emboss can make it look like it's three-dimensional. This works best with text usually, but you can kind of see what it's doing up here at the top of her wing. So you can soften it, you can change the contour. Just trying to see, now you can kind of see how it's making it three-dimensional. Maybe something like that. Okay, and then you could try, let's see, a color overlay. You can choose whatever color you want. You could try a gradient overlay. So now it's going from blue to purple, which is pretty similar. Maybe I'll make it go from like blue to pink. Okay, and then to see what that does, this is down in the layers panel. So if you click OK, you can still turn all of these on and off as you see fit. And then you can double click in order to edit those. So they're non-destructive on the layer. So maybe increase the opacity a little bit. You can change the direction that the gradient is going from blue to purple. And then you can, of course, change the opacity, make it less. Okay, so those are an introduction to the layer styles, the adjustment layers right here. Masking will allow you to hide parts of a layer. So if I wanted to add a mask, for example, I can paint with black and hide wherever I paint from the layer. So if I just kind of click and drag, you can see it's getting rid of that part. Maybe I'll hide this bevel and emboss. There you go. So you can see what it's doing. It's kind of hiding that part of the layer. If you switch to white, it will reveal. So we can put that back. So it's a non-destructive way of just having parts of each layer showing. Okay, so that is using the Layers panel in Adobe Photoshop.